Recording. Okay, so we are now at the farmers market in the Agora of Athens. Which year is it?
Around like 500 BC.
500 BC. Okay, that's exactly what I would expect. Perfect. We're gonna start with Plato, I guess, or maybe let's start with somebody a little bit older than us. Wise guy from the past, Heraclitus. So we were talking about the truth, basically. I don't remember exactly how we came to the topic of truth, but my idea was just that I should quote Heraclitus to you, that logos is only one to those who are awakened, and it's multiple things to those who are sleeping, or those who are sleeping are going back to their own logos. So logos is only one. The truth is only one. That's the idea. So what's your opinion on truth? Let's start with this.
That's this is kind of out of the blue. Basically,
I think it's really related to. I mean, the it was the basis. It was the root of our discussion, I think.
Yes. To me, let's say as a proposition, the way I see it, that the truth is unreachable to us as human beings.
Good.
You know, whatever we say is the truth is always contingent, is always in a way produced. It depends on our faculties and on the way we choose to produce it. I'll come to that later, because what is at the core of my epistemology as Deleuzian, or however are we going to call it, is something like production of image of thought. And that is something that's a huge philosophical problem.
Say it again. Production of image of thought.
Thought is a huge philosophical problem, as a matter of fact, because we see thinking. If you say, can we say that thinking is one of the processes that leads us to the truth that we are using to?
Exactly, like rational thinking, like using some sort of method in the thinking. Okay, yeah.
And we are kind of assuming, as philosophers, and in our everyday life, that thinking is unproblematic process. Maybe it's laborious, maybe it's hard, maybe you need to work on it to think, maybe you need to examine. Yeah. It might be hard, but it's also very problematic, because what are we doing when we are thinking? This is where image of thought comes from. We have some kind of perceptions of things that we are thinking about. We have some kind of process in place that we think that comes naturally, but we are actually never examining it. We never, when we are thinking, we are never or rarely reflecting on how we think and why are we thinking the way we are thinking. So
sometimes we are, but okay, yeah. Is this psychoanalytical twist to the problem of thinking, or?
One might call it psychoanalytical, yes. But for now, I won't apply any labels to it, just for the sake of simplicity. I will just say that it's something deeply problematic. And we are regarding it, if we are rationalists, almost unquestioningly, as a method through which we are coming. Through which we are reaching truth. Remember, you probably remember that Descartes work, Meditations.
Yeah, Meditations on the First Philosophy, and also in 1666, the treatise on method, and method is how to reach the truth. There's basically all of his works were kind of like how to reach the truth with reason only, right? Without
Yeah,
empirism. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Good. Good. Keep going. I'm taking notes, by the way,
yes, and
on the papyrus.
and this in preface to this work, meditation, that is something that is rarely read by students today. He says, "Oh, I will take this week off. It will be a week when I have no other obligations. I will
Mm.
retreat somewhere, make sure that I'm not reading anything, make sure that I'm not interacting with anyone. Because I want to come to this pure reason that is uninterrupted by anything outside, and I want to basically reduce everything to see what's in the core of the process." Uh,
Nice. Nice.
and
I
this
like
is
that.
and this is like a brilliant a brilliant way. But where is the mistake here? I believe that the mistake is here is that he never questions why is he using that exact process. First of all, and second of all, those are very ideal circumstances. We usually don't think in such circumstances.
Exactly.
It's
We don't.
unapproachable to us. So he's kind of inferring some condition of pure reason out of circumstances that are very special and circumstantial to his own position. So here again, he approaches this pure reason as something unproblematic. And
Okay,
even more,
I have some points I need to raise immediately just about this. I have so many. I started taking notes too late, but let's say a bit about this. Okay, it's true. Usually we don't do it. It's a sort of retreat. He discovered the concept of retreat.
yeah,
Uh, Western Buddhists and other new age, managers in Silicon Valley would be really proud if they knew it. But I wanted to say, yeah, it's retreat, and usually we don't go into this natural state that would be allow us to think in such a way, right?
yeah,
But most philosophers do, right? Most like Soren Kierkegaard, I mean, he spent nights and nights and nights alone just thinking or reading a passage from the Bible and thinking, like, and also, by the way, stupid shit that nobody else understands, or they're just really banal, to say banal, right? But
yeah,
he puts a lot of meaning into it. Abraham sacrificing his son, willing to sacrifice. He was thinking about it. Really emotionally hit him completely that he got so much into it that he found a new meaning into it. But the real meaning is just complete submission to God. That's all. Like Islam, the meaning of Islam also submission. That's the original meaning, right? But Kierkegaard just comes up with something completely new because he spent so much time thinking. So I just wanted to say philosophers really do this. I guess Plato had a lot of free time on his hand. Socrates also. Well, he was known to talk to other people. Heraclitus was definitely known to be a loner. I think he was aristocratic, right? Or
yeah,
by origin, yeah, yeah. Well, and I think he was known to be a loner. So, yeah, yeah. So I think this natural state also it's not. You say it's problematic. I want to know why. Because also later, if you read this, you're right. Philosophy students, I never heard about this preface to Meditations. It's pretty cool. But the meditations as they continue, he starts by doubting everything, by doubting even his reason, by doubting God, but he was raised by Jesuits, how do you say? And he doubts that even God is maybe this evil genius. I forgot the Latin term.
hmm?
That all of his senses are just like, controlled brain in a vat, that matrix scenario, whatever. But he later on he realizes that even if all of this is true, the worst possible scenario, this idea that he's still thinking cogito actually means he's cognant, he's aware, cognizant, or how would you say in English? So this is how cogito ergo sum came. That no matter if this evil god is completely, altering his, like David Icke, that Saturn's brings all of his senses and everything, but the mere fact that he's still thinking is something. It counts for something, that something actually exists. That thought, right? Ego.
Yeah.
But ego literally means me, right? I want to say I in Latin. So yeah. So cogito ergo sum. I don't know. It's not well understood, I think. But this is how he started. He started with absolute doubt and came to this truth. And I remember that guy we mentioned before. We spoke about him, Davor Katunaric, one of the best philosophers in the world, probably. Um, he said on Forum HR a long time ago that this truth is not just a logical truth, like you would say, a sort of syllogism or something. This truth is existential truth. It's deeper than any logical truth, right? Wouldn't you agree with that as a sort of natural state?
Uh, well, yes and no is the most
Yes, no,
simple.
but
Yeah, yes, no. It is
so what is
definitely,
problematic in it?
again, I'm coming back to the thing that the thinking is problematic. It is taken for granted. The
But
thinking as
he
process is
renounces
never
thinking.
problematized.
He renounces
Yes,
thinking. He says cogito, and cogito is translated as thinking, but in I'm not sure what was he writing in Latin or in French. I think it is Latin actually.
yeah,
I
it's in
think
Latin.
later he started, but later he did start in French also.
Yeah,
So in that that time French, whatever the hell that was, probably even worse than today's French. No, it was definitely better than today's modern French. I mean contemporary French. Okay, so I discussing language. So anyway, but hey, I wanted to ask you about object petit a, and petit a, whatever objet. I want, because you said we both agreed in the beginning that truth is something unattainable.
yeah.
So yeah, and also we spoke about ethics before in the context of Tsipra, Marian Tsipra, and Bolkovich. So we're gonna come back to that, I hope. But I
Maybe.
just
Yeah,
wrote it down here. But yeah. But cogito actually doesn't mean thinking. It means cognitant, being cognizant. We use this word in English so little, but it's so important. It's basically being aware, right?
yeah,
Also, it's not a complete synonym again.
yeah. Okay, it's not a complete synonym. I was talking about process of thinking, but
But
okay,
yeah,
it's a broader
but
term. It's a
but
broader term.
isn't consciousness just being consciousness? So this is, I remember Tavor actually quoting this part and putting a stress on this part in Croatian, explaining it. He quotes Descartes as saying, "I don't just see something; I see that I see." And this first see is different, right?
Yeah,
The one see is empirical, visual, obviously, or hear. I see that I hear. The first see is the what in English we call mind's eye, right?
yeah,
So you are cognizant that you are seeing. You're cognizant that these
yeah,
processes are happening. Yeah. So this cognition or mind's eye uh, is uh, is not thinking. It's just awareness, right? Is
Okay.
it thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. And now you're coming to my point. Yes.
Thank you.
It's
I'm
not
glad
thinking in a way rationalists understand it. It's not thinking even in a way Descartes understood it. He was wrong there. He was thinking too narrowly, ascribing it only to rational mind. And awareness is something else. Awareness is, like you said, broader term that encompasses our consciousness of ourselves, our consciousness of our mental faculties, our consciousness of our language faculties that enable us to express that thought. You see that there's there's a whole bunch of, and here we come to the core of what is actually Deleuzian epistemology. He's calling that assembly, like a machine. There are a bunch of like moving parts. This is my consciousness of self. This is my consciousness of language. This is my consciousness of surroundings. This is my consciousness of my mental faculties. This is my consciousness of mental process, or even unconsciousness, if we want to talk psychoanalytically. Even if we're not conscious that something is happening there below the surface. So we have a whole assembly that serves to produce an image of thought. And we must constantly be aware of that. Our thoughts are not some concepts that are we discovering, that are here, that are we taking for granted. We are actively producing them. And that has huge implications from my view of truth, because in this case, there isn't only one truth that can be produced. We can indeed approach it through different assemblies. Different, in his like mechanicistic language, Deleuze called them machines. And I think it's a great expression, because what is the definition of machine? It is assembled of parts, and it produces something. So yes, those are like epistemological machines of a sort. And that's why my answer was yes and no. It was yes, of course. That's what Cartesian epistemological machine produces. But this is not only a machine imaginable that can produce what we call truth.
So even self-consciousness, just being aware that you're aware, and then ad nauseum aware that you're aware that you're aware, it's all assembly. It's assembly.
Yeah. It's assembly that goes to infinity.
Exactly, assembly that goes to infinity, and it's basically useless, as we all know. But assembly produces an image of thought, right? Image of thought.
Yeah.
And thought is always actively producing different thoughts, different images, or
yes, in a way, yes. Yes, in a way, yes. Image of thought.
Assembly is always actively producing images of thought. Is that correct?
Yes, that image of thought is like a beginning of the process we call thinking. Then we have that image, and that image then gets articulated as a thought. When we talk about image of thought, we are talking about pre-linguistic, pre-conceptual abstraction of a concept.
Pre-linguistic. I actually needed to check subtitles. You see, they're useful. Pre-linguistic. Nice. I like this.
Yeah.
But okay, that's one question that actually occurred on Forum Higher. Like, can you actually think? I will come back to this. This is really good, and I have a really important question about this. But it's a stupid question, but important. But I just want to come back to Forum Higher because I just remembered somebody said, like, have you ever tried thinking without language? And I couldn't do it. I thought I could, Like it would be some sort of visualization. How do you say?
Yeah.
But it's still a language because you would always attach some language to it. But I'm not sure does it happen in the same moment as the image, or is it you know is it always linguistic? I mean, for Deleuze, I guess it's pre-linguistic, but I still
Yeah.
don't get it. How can it be pre-linguistic?
Are you familiar with the speech of a schizophrenic?
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
unfortunately, firsthand, yeah.
yeah. Have you noticed that they are often have neologisms in their speech, like very idiosyncratic words?
My cats are fucking, and I think we need to find a neologism for a philosophical discussion while the cats are fucking.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, schizophrenics often use neologisms because their vocabulary, as it is,
I'm serious. Wait, their vocabulary. Keep going.
yeah, their vocabulary as is our language, known language, often isn't enough to describe their experience because it's bizarre. It
Of course,
defies.
it's psychosis. It's
Yeah,
psychosis. Yeah,
yeah,
I can understand the neurochemical aspects of it. So yeah, their experience is much too rich to be expressed in our normal language.
yes.
But then
So
again, neologisms they just accumulate. They don't really. It's also like going ad nauseum with these assemblies, right?
yes,
You don't really get anything new from them,
of
right?
course. Well, you can if you go to really analyze the speech, but the point I was aiming at is if they are inventing a word for some experience, mental experience, that means that there is some kind of experience that they are feeling, but they are unable to put into known words. So they are inventing a word. So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
So
there is some kind of pre-linguistic image of thought in their mind.
you're absolutely right, actually. Now that I think of it, also acquisition of language, developmental psychology, like all of us have experienced childhood, and we're like, uh, we had this pre-linguistic stage for a long time, and even like 6 or 7 years old, some complicated words were just like, like I remember just an anecdote. I was like maybe 4 years old or something. I remember I was a kindergarten, so it must have been 5 or 4. And I asked my mother. I remember exactly where I was. I asked my mother, "What does it mean? Depends, to depend." In Croatian, obviously. But how would you explain this to anybody? Like, like you would need to, pose a relationship between two different things. What the fuck is a relationship? What do you mean by things? Like how is a relationship not a thing? There's so many different. Yeah, but depends. Like, but what I was trying to ask is probably just what I guess would be a Wittgensteinian kind of thing to do, just how to use this word correctly in the language, right? Uh, you know what I mean? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because at that point I heard the word many times, but I didn't know how to use it in
yeah.
a sentence. And yeah, or maybe I did, but not in most of the contexts, etc. Yeah. So that's a simple explanation, but still, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So we can agree about the pre-linguistic thing. Assembly, image of thought, machine is composed of parts, and what does it produce? Sorry, produces thoughts, right? Or what?
Yeah, in that case, it produces. No, let's go step beyond the thought. Now, it produces first image of thought.
Okay,
There
yeah.
is image of thought, and then when we start to articulate it in a way, to put it in some kind of logical constraint or something, we have a thought. But yeah, first there is an image of what we are thinking. Yeah.
And this logical constraint. Okay, didn't Lacan like steal most of this shit, or they because you know, like Lacan had that imaginary, real, and symbolic, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not Lacanian, but you know how it goes. So you just said that that thought that you're putting it. First you have image of thought, and then it becomes constrained as a rational thought, let's say.
Yeah.
With logic. Isn't this kind of how would Lacan describe this? Isn't this kind of symbolic, I guess? And the first one would be real.
Yeah, he would say that it comes from the real to the symbolic.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah, but symbolic is like a crack in the real or something like this, right?
Yeah, and it's a domain of language and symbols and everything else. Yeah.
That's interesting. But how did you choose Deleuze and Guattari? Is it pronounced Guattari?
Yeah, Guattari, Felix Guattari.
Them over Lacan. I'm just wondering.
I don't know. I mean, I'm like more familiar with them. I cannot say like it was some kind of a choice where I familiarized myself with both at the same time. I simply familiarized with Deleuze and Guattari before I familiarized myself with Lacan in any detail, and it made sense to me. And then it made sense to also read Lacan through them rather than take.
Oh yeah, reading Lacan through them. I noticed that you do that, but it makes sense, I guess, more than Lacan does. Definitely, Lacanians are
me to understand Lacan after
what?
It was simpler to me to understand Lacan after I read
Absolutely. I can see that. I noticed that when we spoke about image of thought and this and also I asked you when we were talking about body without organs, I think, and I immediately ask you if you remember. I immediately ask you, okay, what about object petit a? Isn't it like a object little a? Like, isn't it a similar type of concept, or maybe it was something different? Okay, can you just shortly explain body without organs? I remember it was also similar to id from Freud.
Yeah, in a way, body without organs is a concept that it's constantly like mystified in philosophy circles and used as even as a meme to explain how Deleuze is hard to understand. For me, it's kind of a very, very, very simple concept. You know, what does body without organs entail? Well, it's simply a kind of subjectivity that can at any given moment become anything. It can basically ascribe and create meanings out of nothing, similar to an egg that has like the embryo of a bird inside it that is still not it is still not territorialized in any way. There are no specialized parts in an egg, but it still contains it, you know. Still envelops.
Envelopes, yeah. I wanted to say the word, and envelope was on the tip of my tongue.
Yes,
and I remember when I was reading.
It's basically concept when you cut away or melt away all of the differentiations of an object and observe it in its potentiality, in its embryonic phase.
But wasn't it just didn't you start with the subject in the beginning? Subjectivity.
Yeah, it's a kind of object. Sorry, I was yeah.
So it is an object.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, but you did mention subjectivity of it.
Yes, because I was already thinking about something else, and this is like becoming body without organs as a subject, but this is something completely else, you know.
Oh.
Yeah, but okay, let's say it's an object. It is that kind of, yes. It has full potential for channeling of desire. I have to get back to that. You know that there is like
desire is the key concept here, I think. Yeah.
desire
Okay.
is the key concept, that because desire is what produces. It is like this internally producing force. And the body without organs, since there are no differentiations, there are no territorializations, is endlessly producing. I have to enter the door now.
Okay. Okay. I'll just talk to myself a little bit. So I just wanted to say that cogito. We should use the word cogito instead of awareness and thinking. But assembly, image of thought, this interaction, it's pretty cool. It's interesting how we came back to Lacan. Came back, not even back. Actually, that was something. That was definitely didn't think we were gonna go to. Well, what happened? Did you get a pizza or something?
No. My wife came back.
Oh, cool. Say hello.
Just a moment.
Hey, ciao.
She's gonna be on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay.
But we are in the farmers market, right?
Yeah. Ancient Athens farmers market. Yeah.
Athens, exactly. And this is my wine here. Everybody can see it's purple color because we don't know what's blue yet.
No, what were we saying? We were going back to the image of thought and the like core of this
I will tell you exactly. I remember.
Psychology. Yeah.
So it doesn't have differentiation yet. It's not territorialized. How do you say territorialized?
Yeah, that's
yeah, exactly. So it's full potential of desire.
Yeah.
Or for desire, full potential for desire.
Yeah, it can become anything.
It can become anything. Yeah. So he uses an image of an egg embryo, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's enveloped in its an enveloped. Yeah. Okay. Oh fuck. I'm gonna need to charge the battery, but that's not a problem. Actually, it's very close to me. Just give me a second. Okay, you keep going. But do you have anything else to say about body without organ?
Oh, I could say a lot, but I don't know
Okay,
where.
I have a question. In that case, I have a question so that we can be more precise.
Yeah.
You were talking before about this pre-linguistic, when I was questioning this pre-linguistic, blah, blah, the image of thought and everything, and you were talking about the speech of a schizophrenic, how do you say, schizophrenic person.
Schizophrenic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, schizophrenic person. And how much experience do these two people have, Dolce and Gabbana, with actually schizophrenic people? You know, like at least as a patient of Guattari, I guess, or
yes.
Or
most of like direct references to schizophrenia came from Guattari. He was like a psychiatrist, and he invented those cool new democratic therapeutic methods.
Democratic?
Yes, it was kind of like
Can you just explain shortly because I'm really confused now.
Yeah, the democratic group therapy, he called it. There were those patients and him, and basically he believed that through their interaction, by just letting them speak about everything, and then patient reflecting on each other's experience with some kind of minimum guidance by him, it will cure them. Yeah, it's kind of like group therapy today. It was revolutionary at the time. Yeah.
Wow,
So
yeah, I just wanted to say, so group therapy didn't exist before that?
it did, but he kind of really developed it. Developed many of the, you
Mm.
know, many of the aspects and
Yeah,
practice it
yeah,
extensively.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He, I don't know, I think MDMA didn't exist at that time, but it would be cool if he gave them that.
Yeah.
because
I
because
believe he experimented with LSD in some. Yeah. But yeah.
MDMA is special because it's empathogenic.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
he did well. That explains psychosis. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So basically, yes, he had experience with schizophrenia, and like, yes, the
Mm.
mind of a schizophrenic, he
Mm.
postulated. I'm simplifying here. Like there's whole specification is kind of body without organs, and this is how he produces. Like schizophrenic's desire goes in in all directions. It can be
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So
reflected upon themselves. It can be imprinted by God, by some strange machines, paranoid dream of. It can be thoughts can be inserted, the thoughts can be sent away. It's
oh yeah,
completely,
yeah, yeah. Now I
yeah,
remember that. Now I remember that YouTube video that you actually commented that it was pretty good in
yeah,
explaining the how it's the territorialization, whatever is. Wait, can you see me?
yes,
Oh, sorry, just pressed the wrong button. How it just jumps all over the place from the personal, from the body, from the to the
yeah,
interpersonal to the world historical and back is just like going all over the place, something like that,
yes,
right?
yes.
But okay, let's now that we know this, we know all this. This is pretty cool. Uh, how do we get to world historical, and what does world historical mean in this context?
World historical, basically, it's not. I believe it's not an expression Deleuze and Guattari used, but I got to check. But something that
Yeah, but
what
the guy in the
what
video does, but I
yes,
think he's Lacanian. So
video categorize that. But well, it's when you're talking about world historical, you're basically going back to the kind of thinking that explores society and things that are historically contingent, that are inherently in a Marxist sense, like the motor of the human society. So this is that world historical aspect. I believe that the YouTuber uses it to illustrate this schizophrenic Judge Schreber who's talking about Freemasons and conspiracies, and he places that in the world historical because it's a very like political, cultural, and
mm,
historical subject, all those beliefs.
mm,
And he incorporates them with his somatic symptoms, with his body. So it's like, well, I
yeah,
don't know what was it. I believe in the Schreber's memoir, it was that the Freemasons stole his stomach and put the inferior one, uh,
oh yeah, yeah,
like that. Yeah, and
yeah.
this kind of the territorialization, because this like historical conspiracy of the secret society can affect your body, and that's why you have like indigestion or something because they put inferior stomach.
Yeah, yeah, I remember you spoke about this, and I think he did too. Sorry, wait, I need to fix the camera. I don't know what happened here, because can you see me? Oh, yeah,
Now
thank you.
now you're back.
Yeah, I was in the world historical. I was Napoleon for a second, uh, but now Napoleon is in my stomach, I think, or he stole my stomach. But okay, but one idea I remember from that is that world historical is also ultimately unreachable. So there's so many unreachables here.
If world historical, you would have to have like bird's eye, like on the entirety of the world
It's
history.
not something that anybody can participate in as an individual, except a schizo, except a schizo, right? But
Yes.
even he, yeah, that's the confusing part for me. So how do we use this in a good sense? I don't know. Yeah, because he has this Marxist perspective of using Dolce and Gabbana in a way to affect the world historical. But I also
Yes.
think that it's like inherently impossible to affect world historical. I don't know. Maybe he means it in a Hegelian sense, like Geist or something. It's still pretty confusing to me, this world historical. But okay, we don't need to talk about that. But we have a lot of unreachable stuff here. I mean, we were talking about truth, and we agree that truth is not something that we can ever reach. Right. We were talking about ethics when we were talking about Cipra and Bolkovich and metaphysics, and of course they base their ethics on Jesus Christ. The metaphysics, sorry, they base it on metaphysics, and metaphysics then as a precursor to ethics, right? But we can also agree that ethics is something that's unreachable with language.
Truth. I mean, to be ethical is to be true and to reflect some kind of truth. And if truth is unreachable, then ethics would also be by extension. No one
Exactly.
knows. Yeah, no one knows their actions are good. Yeah.
Absolutely. There is this deep connection between epistemology and ethics. I think even in Plato, but I'm not that familiar with Plato. But you can see it in the Republic,
Yeah.
Politeia, whatever is the Greek name. You can see that he also in oh my God, Tetet. We say Tetet, but the English name is completely messed up. What's the English name of Tetet? Do you know?
Tetet. How tetet?
It's is it still pronounced Tetet? Really?
No, what did you say? I didn't get the word
The
tetet.
Plato's dialogue Tetet, and Tetet was a very gifted mathematician, I think. Young.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know
and
what you say.
basically they come to the point that they come to that standard definition of knowledge as a justified true belief, but they come to the conclusion that knowledge is impossible, basically.
Yeah.
And then also uh, anything good or virtue is also impossible to know. Uh, Apology of Socrates, I suppose. Many different places, in Plato, and also Plato was against writing in the seventh letter, or whatever it's called in English. So there are many these things that we can agree that are unreachable, and one of them is sorry, we were talking about this natural state that's problematic. We can come back to this. The natural state is problematic because of the way that the thinking, the assembly operates. Can you say it like this?
Yes, in a way, yes.
Can you say it in a better way? Why is the
Uh,
natural state problematic?
the state of thinking. I was going that thinking is problematic, and that is because yes, it is because image of thought is produced by an assembly of certain kind. And when we talk about how we assemble those concepts, there are a lot of those that we assemble like axiomatically based on our prior beliefs, based on effects, based on our unconscious desires, yada, 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 yada. So they will always differ, and they will always produce some kind of image of thought. And there is yes, there is a lot of varieties, lots of assumptions, lot of conceptions, and out of those conceptions and assemblies, we are expected to achieve something like truth as something that is outside us. Outside us, that should be universal. And yes, the assemble is of our own design, through which we are produced.
Yeah, but this is the part where I kind of, when it started with Heraclitus, when he says that logos is, for those who are awake, is only one thing, right? So
Yeah.
it should be universal, right? Shouldn't the truth be universal? Shouldn't the truth be same?
Yeah, I am skeptical about that. Deeply skeptical. Maybe.
Maybe.
Not likely.
Not likely? So what does it mean? So we don't know what truth is, but we do have knowledge about how many truths there are. That doesn't make sense to me.
How do we have knowledge about how many truths there are? I believe there's a whole bunch of them, really. And if you count all those that can potentially be produced, that's... I don't think we have
that. But those are all subjective. Those are all products of the assembly, right? But,
yes.
But let's say pre-assembly truth. Like I wanted to say this before, and I will say it now. I wanted to say this long time before. Ever since you started talking about assembly and the image of thought and how thinking about thinking and thinking about feeling and whatever and everything else, and all this ad nauseum thinking, reflecting everything. When you were explaining that part, the first thing that came to my mind was like, oh my God, Deleuze, he just like stole Buddhism completely.
Possibly. I have
Right?
some things. I don't know enough of Buddhism to make that claim, but some things are very similar. Yeah.
Well, you don't even need to know it. You don't even need to know it by it's like written stuff, scriptures or whatever, sutras, but just experience of meditation. There are many kinds of meditations, but the one that was developed a little bit later than the first one was one pointedness. I think in Upanishads, in Vedas. One just focusing on one thing for a long period. It could be a mantra. It could be just one point that you're looking at. It could be one thought in particular. It could be thought of self, but just one pointedness. That's the idea. But later it developed in mindfulness, and mindfulness is the thing. Everything you described about how the assembly works in the image of thought, and how the machine works. This is the experience of mindfulness. If you sit in meditation in a way that's, I think in any meditation, but I speak from experience because of mindfulness. Because of my experience, I think you will see the exactly same thing. Like you will see that one thought comes and another, you just kind of let it go, but you don't know where it comes from and you don't know where it's going.
Yes.
And you don't have control of it. And at one point in the meditation you will feel like okay, now I got it, like I'm in control of these thoughts. But then there is this new thought that, wait, this guy, this controller of thought is also just a thought, right? So there's also, it never stops. It's impossible to escape it. So there's that. The idea is that by this you kind of reach the state where you are not thinking, by letting all the thoughts come and go, and figure out that even the thought of self is also an illusion, is also a thought, right? But the same thing you reach with pointedness. Actually, I think some people prefer different things. And just to add one more thing to this, thought, thinking, it leads. What it leads to is really pre-linguistic state. And that's kind of at least in Buddhism meditation, that's key to wisdom. When you are in this state, it's of course I can't speak about it, just like I can't speak. I like to talk about unknown unknowns, but there's nothing rational I can say about unknown unknowns, right? They're nothing, literally. But now we're at epistemology again, but still, they are nothing, unknowns. But this is the same thing with mindfulness. After a long time, you get to this place where there is nothing, but still maybe there is this cogito. I wanted to, we can say awareness. There's just this awareness. It relates to you definitely. I know like Brahman equals Atman. Atman equals Brahman. So the ultimate, the God, or the whole of reality as being self, or self as being whole of reality. So that was before Buddhism, of course, the whole idea. But I think we also agreed before this conversation that we're gonna come to Advaita at one point.
Of course,
Okay, so you can. I will just this. Sorry. Just like Fidel Castro for 3 more hours. So just this. There's a beautiful. I think that was a samurai or a Zen master who was writing to samurais. I forgot exactly. I need to check. But he was like, he said, "To think, I will not think, is also one's thought. In order not to think, simply do not think about not thinking at all." He wrote that in Japanese or maybe literary Chinese, I suppose, in that time. So I really need to see the original. I mean, it's pretty cool. But sometimes I meditate about this as a koan, and it also helps me a lot. But okay, let's see your opinion then on how does this assembly and pre-linguistic, or all of these things, how do they relate to, like, is there this awareness, awareness beyond reason, beyond language, beyond just pure cogito, let's say?
You're saying about Brahman is Atman and this like state of like oceanic state, only awareness. And this is kind of like this state where there are no territorializing assemblings. And we could say that through this state of enlightenment, nirvana, whatever. Sorry if I'm mixing the terminology here. That we are reaching.
It's good. You can say enlightenment if it persists, or satori if it's just like a blink.
We are, and this is like the state of, I believe, becoming body without organs. Effectively.
True, but becoming body without organs has desires that go in all directions, kind of.
Yeah, but if it's going all directions, if it's diffuse, maybe that's, desire. Maybe that's the same as this existence.
Now you reminded me of something. This is not very well known, but when I was reading a book about Zen, I stumbled upon something that's really not widely known. There's such a thing as Zen disease. Many masters, Japanese masters, noticed that after they would do, they would just their brain, is everything fine?
Yeah, you were frozen.
The brain would start their brain would start firing with all the thoughts possible at the same time, you know, and
Yeah.
it was really problematic, and you know, but they would kind of get out of it eventually, but it it makes sense. I need to find this passage from that book about Zen. Actually, it's a book about Chan, the Chinese Chan, but all variants, including the Vietnamese and everything. But all variants of Chan or Jana or Zen, right? Jana, I don't know how to pronounce it in Sanskrit. So, uh, so yeah, that makes sense with body without organs, because as we said, the desires is flowing in all directions at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is just one case in point that he stole Buddhism, basically.
Yeah.
Which wait, let me just think what you said right now.
Yeah, I'm now remembering the source of this, his all conceptualization of assemblies, and I think that he might not have stole Buddhism directly because he referred to Proust, the French writer, turn of the century
Oh yeah,
writer.
yeah. You told me about this, but
Yes,
Proust.
and
Okay, tell me more.
yes, and I believe that I read a biographic note that Proust was really interested in what they what they called Eastern philosophies back then. That was
Oh,
like all the craze on the turn of the
oh.
century.
So he was indirectly, Deleuze was indirectly influenced by Eastern
Yeah,
philosophy. Okay, keep.
I believe that was the line of thought because when
Mm.
he talked about rhizomes and all those conceptions about uh, epistemology and everything, he actually refers to Proust's novel, The Search for the Lost Time, and he is actually admiring the way the Proust is constructing his own past through reflections, through effects, through associations, eating a
Mm.
piece of cake and then remembering childhood and then following that path all through the years, through all those reflections and associations. And he was really inspired by this as kind of like different point of thinking where you're starting from some kind of no preconceived notions, but reflections and images that you are assembling into coherence. So
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, yeah, it was some kind of indirect connection with Buddhist teachings through Proust that inspired Deleuze.
Interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that about Proust,
Yeah,
but obviously Deleuze got it the way he conceptualized it with the assembly and the machine, image of thought and everything, body without organs, everything together with Guattari, right? And research on schizophrenics. Uh, Obviously, they got it really close. Like it's almost like one to one, you know.
yeah,
Okay, I think we can kind of wrap up soon. Just maybe one more question and maybe some sort of conclusion, and then later in the next episode, we're gonna go back to that quote about uh, how do they call this
yeah, yeah.
incompatibilities, because
That's
Davor had a point about this, that Deleuze. Well, Davor has this important idea about three dimensions of time, right?
yeah,
As you know, okay, but we're gonna talk about past, present, and future, and the way they developed from infinite possibilities that you have now that collapse in a moment when you decide something into one possibility, and of course zero possibility for the past. so you have 0, 1, and infinite in this case. But Deleuzian, that quote, the particular quote, didn't take into account time at all. And first time that you mentioned time, and this is a funny sentence in its own right, and first time that you mentioned time when you were talking about Proust, like time when he was eating a cake or something, right now, a moment ago, right? So, okay, yeah, it's interesting. I want to know more about how Deleuze read Proust, which parts he quoted. I want to know also more about Proust's connections with Buddhism. Yeah, I can see how it can lead to, how it's influenced by mindfulness kind of thinking, and how you can lead to even more of that if you're a really good philosopher.
I just want to say one thing about this kind of process of thinking, that I was thinking, like, thinking always unreliable because we are going by assumed, and Deleuze's way, of course, isn't like meditation, because I don't know why, but because he wanted to keep probably options open. And he said the true way, if we want to think about something and really come to the thought that is not exactly true but usable, he was always saying, what are thoughts doing? That is important, not if they are true or not, but what are they doing? What are they producing further? We need to become schizo. That's his say. He first said,
you need to become schizo. I remember that from.
Before he met Guattari, he said he was saying we have to become stupid, and he was never really satisfied with that phrasing, like stupid. Something was lacking, and then he met Guattari, and then he said we need to become schizo, not stupid, but schizo, because we need to like.
That would be body without organs, basically deterritorialization.
Yes, and that way we have opened ourselves to every possible thought-producing assembly. We are not limited in choosing in which way we will construct truth. And
that's good. That's good. We're not limited in the way that we can construct truth, but I'm still wondering if I do that and if you do that, are we gonna come to the same kind of truth like Heraclitus said about logos being one?
Probably, I don't know.
I think we would.
It depends,
like to unite things.
It's always this question, truth is like a problematic term in itself. What does it do? My truth, your truth.
Yeah.
Are we in agreement? What are we wanting to produce? If we are, then probably we will take some same steps and come to something similar. But if we aren't.
Okay, so can I just ask you a personal question? What do you want to produce?
What do I want to produce right now? Or
with your truth, so ultimately, what do you want to produce?
Downfall of capitalism.
Beautiful. But would you be the leader, or just like a cog in the machine, or
some part of the assembly? Yeah. No, I have no inspiration to leadership. No.
So cog in a machine. Okay, part of the assembly. Okay. Nice.
I want to live in communist society, not direct it.
Yeah, the directing will be a lot of work, I guess. And we would be anti-work. Cool. I think we did a lot with this. I wanted to ask you about objet petit a also, but I think petit a whatever. But I think it's not necessary anymore. We will come to that next time. Okay, I have a lot of them here.
Episode 1 of Schizoanalysis.
What?
This is episode 1 of Schizoanalysis podcast.
Episode 1 of Schizoanalysis. Really, it was really interesting. I actually haven't expected this much. I wanted to talk about rationality, but then again, we are using language when we are talking, so we are already rational in this sense. So it's not like there's a contradiction.
Yeah,
and
but we have to be aware that rationality, like this quote, under all reason there is drift and delirium. We have to be also aware that our what we call rational thinking is actually an assembly of sorts that isn't given, that isn't the same. My rational thinking isn't necessarily the same as yours.
That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, that's abyss that exists between any two subjects. Like there's that quote from that movie: "Nobody knows anybody else ever." I love that one. It's a love movie, by the way, but still, it's so true. That abyss between two different individual subjects. The privacy in philosophy of mind, we say that your subjective experience is private. So there's no way that I would be able to understand you or you me. But then again, we are using language that's common, right?
Yes, but
we have some feeling of progress while we're doing it, right?
Yes, we are. That's the core, the productivity of thought, productivity of something. We are producing something through that language.
Yeah, but you can also produce shit, right? So I want to spin it in a positive way, kind of.
But so there is that old saying that goes, one man's shit is another man's treasure. So there's that too.
True. I think everything is treasure, basically.
Yeah.
That Zen koan, when a guy is selling meat and another guy is asking him which one of these pieces of meat is the best, and of course the seller on the market of the meat says every piece of the meat in this stall is the best. And at that moment, of course, the other guy gets enlightened because everything is the best. Yeah, that's one of the classical coins. One of okay.
That's something I would say if I was selling meat. Yeah. That's something I would say if I was selling meat, probably.
Yeah, but that's more Dubrava kind of thinking. I guess there is something common to Dubrava and Japanese Zen.
Can you recommend anything from the menu? Like, everything.
Exactly. But please buy everything. My God. Okay, this was very good. Let's keep it. Let's just wrap it up here and hope.
When are we having next episode?
What?
When are we having next episode? In a week or something?
It's spontaneous. We will follow our body without organs.
We will talk in a chat, and whenever we sense that we are in a philosophical frame of mind, we will just.
Exactly. You can.
I like that. Yeah. Very territorialized way. Okay.
Exactly. It is. It's in the spirit of the topic. It's meta. I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's it for now. Thank you, Vinko. And I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
Post this video Colosseum so people can.
Of course I will. Senatus Populesque Romanus. Caligula, Neos Helios. Do you want to say something about the Senate?
Oh, Ave. I will just say Ave to the mighty Senate of Rome, and that's it.
I believe the horses will understand you a lot.
I believe they will.
Okay. What about the war elephants? I can't believe. Okay, next time war elephants. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. That's important point. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye, long glory to Rome. Roma Invicta.